Welcome to Before the Work Begins with me, Jo Hutton, senior yoga teacher and author of best-selling Substack Yoga for Tired People. And in this podcast, we speak to the movers, the shakers and the creatives and find out what they are doing before the work begins. Are they really getting up at 5 a.m. and taking cold plunges, or are they just trying to get by like the rest of us? I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Before the Work Begins podcast, and today we have such a treat for you because we are joined by Hugo Robbins. Can you introduce yourself, please, Hugo?
Yeah, sure. My name's Hugo, and I'm the co-founder and head honcho at Nackt Shoes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Nackt Shoes is?
Yeah, Nackt is a kind of sports lifestyle brand that makes barefoot shoes, barefoot trainers.
And how did you get into that, Hugo?
I got a bit obsessed with barefoot shoes about 6 years ago. And as a lot of people do when they get into barefoot shoes, I became a bit of an evangelist. And I went around telling my family, oh, you guys got to try this. And my friends, like, these shoes will change your life. And everyone kind of, by that point, I think they were kind of used to that kind of thing from me. So I said, okay, that's very nice, Hugo. I said, no, seriously, these things are going to change your world. I said, yeah, sure, Hugo. And I started wearing these kind of big, goofy, bulbous shoes. But I just felt completely different. And my posture improved and I was really noticing, my feet would be a bit tired after walking. I feel I was building this muscle. And I just really got interested in kind of natural movement and finding movement outside of just an exercise paradigm, but trying to get all these little micro movements throughout the day that are kind of essential inputs into your day-to-day life. I thought, this is I can make the barefoot trainer I always wanted.
And is that something that you were doing beforehand, or was that a bit of a U-turn?
It was very much a U-turn. So the backstory is I come from a long line of shoe people. So my dad,
like elves.
My dad's in shoes. His dad had shops around London, but I'm one of 4 kids, and none of us showed any interest in the shoe business. We all had various interests, and yeah, my dad had this family tradition, but he never really pushed it on any of us, and he just nattered constantly about shoes, and none of us showed an interest. So I went and studied physics at university, thought I wanted to be a theoretical physicist, learned it's quite hard. I don't know if you've heard, but theoretical physics is no cakewalk. So, got through my degree and worked for a bit as an engineer, but the shoes were calling to me. I guess through the back door, because the barefoot story is a very it's that shoes are evil and they've destroyed our feet and we need to return to nature. So I guess it was a form of youthful rebellion against my forefathers.
And did your brothers go into shoemaking as well, or did they?
So no. So I have 2 brothers and a sister. My older brother and sister do nothing involved in shoes. My younger brother has now come to join me at Nackt.
You've lured them over to the dark side of barefoot shoes.
Exactly.
What would a typical morning look like for you? I'm assuming you work quite long hours. And so what does a typical morning look like for you?
Alarm goes off maybe 8 o'clock and I snooze it about 4 times.
Yeah, nice.
Finally get out of bed at 8:40 because I realise I've got a meeting at 9. Bleary-eyed, come down, put some coffee on, get dressed just in time and sit down in front of a call at 9 maybe.
So are you a morning person or an evening person?
Definitely an evening person.
An evening person, yeah. If you didn't have to set an alarm, what time would you get up, do you think?
I wouldn't, which is the problem. Honestly, if I have nothing on and I forget to set an alarm, I can easily sleep until 12:30.
Yeah.
So I have to have something. I'm not a morning person, but I will often, if I'm seeing friends, I'll try to do it in the morning because then I have something to be up for.
Do you have breakfast then? Because it sounded like you just literally roll out of bed and.
No, I typically don't have breakfast. I typically just have coffee in the morning and my first meal is lunch.
And what would a normal work day look like for you then? Because if you work for yourself, you're the founder. Are you more operationals, or are you more managing, or are you?
We're a very small team at the moment, so just kind of do a bit of everything. Jump in whatever needs doing, speaking to the factory about upcoming orders, speaking to retailers, jumping in on customer service when it needs to be done. Yeah, just a little bit of everything as and when it needs to be done.
So how do you go from having the idea of having a barefoot shoe to like I actually, full disclosure, the reason that I even know Hugo is because I bought his shoes and I really like them. And you're wearing them and they're like,
Yep.
they're a real thing. How do you go from having the idea of like, I love barefoot shoes, and then there's an actual physical product? Can you talk us through how that happens?
Kind of a moment of madness. I don't know. It was, so I was working as an engineer up in Glasgow, and I just became really fixated and got more and more into this idea of barefoot shoes and the idea that there was kind of an opening in the market. And so a lot of reading up on it. I visited some trade shows in Italy to speak with suppliers, and my dad has been in the footwear industry for years, and he thought he'd never heard of barefoot shoes, and he's very on it in general with trends, but his thing is more kind of women's fashion. He thought, oh, yeah, it's ridiculous, barefoot shoes. No one wants to wear these weird shoes. Said, no, it's not just me. It's a pretty big market. And so I went with him to one of these trade shows, and he's speaking to a factory he works with. And he says, look, my idiot son's got this idea about barefoot shoes. Have you ever heard of anything so stupid? I said, oh, yeah, that's kind of the bulk of our business is barefoot shoes. And he had no idea. So that made things a hell of a lot easier for me. And that's how I kind of connected with that factory in the first place. No, we started very unprepared. My dad obviously knows a bit about the shoe business but he's an agent. So he's kind of the go-between between factories and retailers. But starting a brand was very much outside of his comfort zone. So he did his best to dissuade me. But then once he realised I couldn't do it, he was very supportive. And
what about the design of the shoes? Was it a design that you came up with, or did you work with designers?
The design I came up with, the logo was done by a good friend of mine, Jackie Lana. So she did the logo, and I saw the N. I thought, that's got to go right on the side of the shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did it take from you having the idea to you having the actual prototype in your hand then?
First prototype I got took about 3 months. It was delivered, and it was quite close actually. What you're looking at is really the second prototype, although we've kind of every batch we refine it a little bit more. I think I had the idea in October 23, and we delivered our first shoes in August 24.
And was there a moment where you were like, oh no, like this is real, this is happening?
I think when the first 300 pairs of shoes arrived from Portugal, and there's a picture of me standing in front of all the boxes. And I decided the best place to store them at the beginning, because I didn't want to pay for storage, was my parents' house. My mum came back from holiday to her kitchen filled with 300 shoe boxes.
Had you told her that was going to happen, or did they just...
I had, but I don't think I'd fully prepared her for what 300 shoe boxes look like.
Had you already got a route to market, or were you just like got them and then were like, oh no, I have to sell them now?
More of the latter. But I thought I'll work it out. I think I've heard a lot of people say if you actually knew how hard everything would be, you probably wouldn't start in the first place. You need kind of the right level of ignorance.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, have you found it something similar?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think that there's real power in just jumping and hoping that you're going to be caught. Because I think if you think about it too much, you start worrying and you put yourself off, don't you?
And it's very satisfying. Do lots of research before and think about it, but it's all kind of meaningless until you put it into practice. You can think you have the best business plan in the world, and you never have to test it if you never start. And
how have you found the reception to it then? Have you found that there was the gap in the market that you thought that there would be?
Yeah, my customers have been great. Customers like you. So many customers have written really lovely reviews. They've reached out to me. They seem genuinely... The signal came very early that this was something that people wanted. So that, because you have no idea until you start. I think if I'd clever thing to do probably would have been a Kickstarter or something and assess the market before ordering the shoes. But very quickly we've got a strong response that people have been waiting for this product. So it's really gratifying putting time into something, putting it out there, and then seeing it out and about in public.
And what is it about barefoot shoes? Because we've been talking about barefoot shoes this whole podcast, but there might be people out there that literally don't know what a barefoot shoe is or why. So sell a barefoot shoe to us. Sure.
Right. So this is a barefoot shoe. is a shoe that is as close to not being a shoe as possible. So the kind of big defining features are it's flat, so there's no raised heel. It's really flexible. And then probably the most important feature is it's got this wide toe box, so your toes can splay out properly. And the idea is everyone's feet hurt, everyone's back hurts, everyone's knees hurt. And we tried more and more cushioning, support, orthotics, and they seem to provide a kind of temporary relief. But the idea with barefoot shoes is that the human foot is not inherently broken, and that if you actually strengthen the foot and you use it as nature intended, it's perfectly functional. It just needs space to move and flex and do its thing.
It needs room to be a foot. Let the foot be foots.
Exactly.
And you mentioned being an engineer up in Glasgow. Did you think that you were going to have this quite straight kind of career trajectory and like quite straight, or was there, when you were an engineer, was there always something in the back of your mind where you were like, no, this isn't quite what I want to do?
Yeah, I really gravitated towards maths and physics at school. So I didn't really know what else you do. I thought I'd do a physics degree. I realised academia wasn't for me. So I thought I wanted to be an engineer and put that into practice. And there was some very cool stuff to that. But I think I realised, I realised I wanted to try something else. And I thought it'd be easier to try now than to try in 10, 15 years.
I assume when you got into barefoot shoes, you're talking about exercise and well-being. I assume that is something you were interested in. Is that something that you would do? How would that fit into your day then if you're not doing it in the morning?
So when I moved, I lived in Glasgow for 2 years and I really got into hill running up there.
Well, you've got to when you live in Glasgow.
Absolutely. So
I lived in Glasgow for 5 years. So I did. I went to university up there.
Yeah, I loved Glasgow.
Yeah, I
loved
really Glasgow
time
as
up
well.
there. Yeah, I really got into hill running, or fell running, as we should say now. We're in England, and Munro bagging, and Glasgow's such a great city for access to the hills. My kind of local was Dumgoyne. It's about a half an hour drive. You run up from the Glengoyne distillery, up and down this brutally steep hill, and that kind of. I've always been a kind of interest in sports, but not particularly naturally athletic. I played a lot of tennis as a kid, but never very well. And fell running really felt like the sport for me. It's really hard work. You feel great, get good exercise, but it's so interesting. Every step is different, and like running down a really steep scree slope is just so exhilarating. and I would often do, when I was walking with friends and we were going a bit more slowly, I would often take my shoes off on the uphill, and did a fair few of the Munros completely barefoot. And people would ask me, "Doesn't that hurt?" I say, "No, I wouldn't do it for." I'm not a masochist. But it's really interesting how differently you move across the ground.
Yeah.
When you're not really cushioned, and by comparison, when you're wearing a thick boot, you feel like you're just clomping away. And it effectively smooths the terrain for you. It provides you this kind of cushioned walkway. Whereas when you take your shoes off, you have to be so mindful of where you put your foot, and you really free up your ankle to explore different angles, and you kind of more clamber over rather than just stomp along linearly. I would watch people on the hills coming down in these stiff boots, and these were very experienced walkers, but you'd see them, because they couldn't flex their ankle, they'd be coming down a steep path, really landing hard on their heels.
Yeah.
And you see the shock jolting up their body. And these are a lot of the same guys who complain about getting really sore knees on long descents. Whereas when you can use your foot more and flex your ankle, you can really, kind of point your toes coming downhill and absorb that shock. And also when you don't have a thick heel underneath you, you don't really roll your ankle. So I think most people they tend to roll their ankle much more in shoes than barefoot, because you're much lower to the ground. You don't have a big lever on your foot. So you don't necessarily need all that support if you're closer to the ground.
Yeah, I think there's been a big U-turn in the thought around movement in general, hasn't there? I think for a long time
we were taught that our bodies were fragile and that we needed to like really support them and like be mindful of our joints in a very almost fearful way. And I think that there's a lot of evidence coming out now that our bodies are anti-fragile and we should be using them as much as we can, and we should be strengthening them up. And I think that barefoot shoes have really managed to catch a zeitgeist of the way we're thinking about our bodies and the way that we're thinking about movement in general.
I started running about 8 years ago, and I've been really reluctant beforehand because, well, partly because whenever I tried it, felt horrible. I get tired. But I'd always heard that like runners were the healthiest injured people you'd meet.
Yeah.
And I'd hear people, there was very much this manner of speaking about it as if you had these mechanical moving parts and they had a certain wear and tear service life, and you put certain miles in it and then they need replacement, and people get knee replacements. And the idea was you have your fixed miles, so you don't want to overuse them for running. And there's this idea of wearing down your joints. So I didn't run for a while, and then I got into running and I looked into it all, and that's kind of where I first heard about barefoot shoes. But the thing that struck me as incoherent about that idea is that, okay, a part in a car is an inert metal part. It doesn't regenerate, whereas human beings are living things. We're constantly wearing down our parts, but we're constantly rebuilding them. And your ability to rebuild decreases as you get older. But that is, otherwise, if you ever had a cut, you'd bleed out and die. So injury only really happens when the rate of damage exceeds the rate of repair. So yeah, it's not about just wearing down these inert parts into dust. It's about making sure that if you are putting wear on your body, you're giving it time to recover, regroup, and strengthen again.
So do you feel like you've been able to recruit the other members of your family to barefoot shoes now?
Yes. They no one had any barefoot shoes before mine, and of course they wore them to support. But I was really surprised. They really love them. I thought they'd wear them for a bit out of support and then say, I don't really want to get into this. But everyone in my family has tried them and liked them straight away.
I think it just makes such a difference in such a short amount of time that you can't imagine going back to wearing normal shoes, because the way that your brain and it sounds really strange, but the way that your brain and your feet talk to each other kind of changes. I remember the first time I put on a pair of barefoot shoes, and it felt like something lovely was happening in my brain, where I was like walking outside and I was like, oh, it feels like my brain's having a massage.
I did that once. I was just walking back from the shops in London on a really lovely summer's day. I thought, what am I doing wearing shoes? I just whipped off the socks, and enjoyed walking on like the little infilled tarmac on the road where they'd done some roadworks or something. And it sounds batshit, but there is something nice about, especially when you're out in the hills. Yeah. Okay, you're seeing the sights, you're getting the smells, you're getting the feeling of the wind on your skin. Oh, you're feeling the squelch of mud under your toes. Yeah. So I think it's immediately apparent to people that this is a new sensation. And so I think that curiosity pulls people in to stick with it long enough to really feel the rest of the benefits. And just the wide toe box is just an immediate comfort thing. Most shoes are not foot shaped, they're shoe shaped, and people end up with shoe shaped feet.
So what would a morning have looked like when you were growing up then? Because if you've got siblings, then was it quite noisy?
Yeah,
and
very noisy.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of screaming and shouting for the school run in the morning. So no one in my family is good in the mornings, despite what they might say. We all pretend that we're not the problem, but I think we're all basically cut from the same cloth. So a lot of shouting, and then in school, and then a lot of dozing off in lessons. Yeah.
And what about at the weekend?
Get out of bed about 11:30.
Yeah. I've seen a theme.
Yeah, have a big breakfast, and in the summer we spent a lot of time. We're very lucky at a garden. If
you could have a morning now, an ideal morning in the life that you've got now, what would it look like?
Dragged out of bed by my fiance early, and I would protest, but I'd be pleased to be up. Not super early, maybe.
Is she a morning person?
She is. I used to say, I actually think I've had a negative effect on her. I think she's got worse since we've been together. But I used to say, that scene in Pulp Fiction where I think you can do spoilers because that film's about 30
Yeah,
years old.
I think
Yeah.
if you haven't seen that by now, then it's a you problem.
You know where Uma Thurman overdoses?
Yeah,
And then John Travolta runs around, and then he gets the adrenaline shot,
yeah.
and he stabs her in the thigh, and she goes. That's how Manon wakes up every morning, which was just totally alien to me. It says, "Come on, let's go, let's seize the day." You know, can't believe we're inside. It's such a beautiful day. So yeah, I'd protest, but I'd be dragged up, go for a walk, get a coffee. Maybe look around a bookshop and buy a few books that will sit on my shelf for 6 years before I read them.
What about your holidays? If you could have a morning on holiday anywhere, where would you be?
Somewhere near hills, somewhere either Scotland in good weather.
So your
the best place on earth.
UK holiday rather than a jet setter holiday.
Both. Also, yeah, somewhere completely new with new mountains. Manon would do a full 2 weeks of trekking, but I would prefer a mix.
You like a little bit of sitting down.
I like good coffee, good food,
Yeah.
good wine, and then also I tell people that's why I got into fell running, is you can really compress a day of outdoor activity into 4 hours instead of 10, and then you can still have a nice evening, and also it means you can start later.
What was the best holiday you've ever been on?
I don't know about best.
Yeah, maybe that's a bit harsh.
I don't know about best, but I really, really enjoyed last summer joining Manon on a little break from the PCT, and we only did a few days of actual walking on the PCT, and I complained the whole way. But yeah, I thought I was fit from fell running, but it turns out long distance walking with a pack is a completely different animal.
Coming from a long line of shoemakers, do you think it's just something that your lens of the way that you look at the world, it's something that is in your like line of sight more than other people? Like, do you think you've had one eye on shoes your whole life?
Maybe, but you could say it's my destiny, and I was fighting it. But I didn't really engage much with my dad when he was talking at the dinner table, which was every night. My dad's completely shoe obsessed, so he's an agent between factories and then high street retailers.
Okay.
So, and he's also kind of a bit of a designer as well. He'll say, "Oh, this will be a really big trend next season. You got to have one of these."
Yeah. So
kind of private label stuff, and then the high street shops will put their own label on it. But yeah, I've always been, as I said, quite fussy, and getting ski boots to fit my feet was a real hassle. I've got very weird, very, very reasonably big, but very, very low volume, very flat feet. I've got very, very little arch and very bony. So I always have problem with blisters and got bumps on my heel. So I think I feel like a lot of these companies, a lot of these products are developed by fussy people.
Yeah.
Because they're solving a problem that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said that you come from a long line of shoemakers then. Talk us through the forefathers of you.
I'm at least 4th generation in shoes. So my dad's in shoes. His dad had shops all over London, which my dad helped out in when he was a kid. Then his father, I think, had shoe shops somewhere in the East End. I don't know much about that. And you go back enough generations, and I think my forefathers were cobblers somewhere in Russia, somewhere probably very cold and wet. Yeah, so it's a long, and shoe people are kind of like that, which I hadn't realized until recently. And also I've learned recently, shoe and garment people are quite separate. It's a very specific thing. And the British shoe industry, everyone seems to know everyone. So it's quite funny how these stories and these families overlap.
So having a dad that works in the shoe business, do you think that gave you an idea that was possible? Because I think for me, it would just never enter my head that I could make a shoe. Like, it just seems like shoemaking is something that other people do. Like, it would never even cross my mind. Do you think the fact that he worked in shoes meant that you could see that was a route that could open for you?
I kind of like that it's a family business.
Yeah.
And I think family businesses make a lot of sense. There's this generational knowledge that can be passed on. So many industries have a kind of familial and ancestral thing going on. People that, what's the TikTok thing? Everyone's talking about Nepo babies. And the big example is Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense,
Yeah.
because if your parents are in the industry, they understand how the industry works. Obviously, they have all the connections. And like the history of Hollywood, I was thinking about this recently, was a lot of the earliest performers were the kids of were former vaudeville stars. They
Yeah.
traveled the country doing these shows, and it was not a glamorous life early on. But then, of course, when it became industrialized and Hollywood grew up, the people best placed to be performers were the people who were already performing, traveling the country. You know, they had the talent, they had the training, and they were building the business themselves. So you see it everywhere. You know, obviously blacksmiths, you know, with sons and shopkeepers. It's always going to be an unfair advantage to have that family understanding of the business.
But it's just also knowing how it works as well, doesn't it? It's like knowing what goes into it and what is entailed. Because I think sometimes, like you were saying earlier about not knowing how hard something is, the problems of the business, you've probably seen your dad go through that so you're like, I can see that there's a way through.
People love to say, you know, on your phone or ChatGPT, you've got the sum total of human knowledge at your fingertips. But that's really not true. There's so much knowledge that isn't written down anywhere.
Yeah, of course.
That's tacit and it's passed between people. So if you're going into a new industry, say in footwear, when you're speaking to a factory, who pays for samples? What's the etiquette around these things? What are reasonable payment terms to expect? You can really get screwed if you're going into an industry that you don't know anything about. And that's kind of half the challenge of business, is learning all these unspoken rules that everyone else already knows and not getting taken for a ride.
And was your dad happy that you were coming into the family business?
I think he was very nervous.
Oh, really?
I think everyone thinks that their industry is the hardest. So he said, don't be ridiculous. Don't go into the shoe business. It's terrible business, you know, stay in engineering. He worked for his dad previously and then he set up his own thing. But he always probably overstated the security of a job as an employee and always wanted that for his kids. Whereas, of course, a lot of people who are employees, they long for the freedom of being your own boss. So I think he was very nervous about me doing it and kind of did his best to talk me out of it. But when he realized I was serious, then he was very, very supportive. And I think it's really nice because I spent more time with my dad in the last 2 years, and a kind of time and a depth of conversation I just wouldn't have had otherwise. So that's been really lovely.
And it's not just your dad as well, is it? Because it's your brother as well. So how's that been, bringing your brother into the business? It's
been great. I think we complement each other very nicely. Yeah, it's funny working family. It's quite intense, but it is nice. There's a baseline level of trust that's really lovely.
Are you his boss?
No, he's kind of my boss.
Even though he's the youngest? Has he always been the boss?
No, I don't think so. But he's very organised. He's always been a tinkerer. He built his first 3D printer when he was about 12 or 13, and before that he was really into building and flying drones. He says he got out drones just before it became big money. But so he's always been making things, and he's been from a young age a filmmaker. He made his first stop motion films when he was about 4 years old, and he didn't realize how many frames it took to make a stop motion film. So he put these videos on YouTube, and he took like 20 photos and moving the Lego figures. He thought, right, that must be pretty long. And you watch it, and the character goes, and then the credits roll because he didn't have enough frames. But he's just he just does stuff and he doesn't question it.
So what's his role in the business then?
His big thing coming in was taking care of making the videos. But obviously in an early stage business, everyone does a bit of everything. Yeah. So, you know, he mucks in with the customer support and he's very good with the wholesale and just keep you on top of things.
Like, do you ever argue?
Big arguments. Big arguments. I think I like arguing well.
Yeah.
I would much rather argue, get through something and hopefully learn something, you know, than avoid conflict all the time. And especially in business, potentially make bad decisions through avoiding conflict. There's no question of any kind of amicable separation because, you know, we're brothers. We're stuck with each other for life. So I guess that does mean you have to resolve things and keep happy.
And are you able to then put that down and be like, okay, now we're brothers? Like, are you able to, like, at Christmas? No.
We're not very good at not talking shop. I blame my father. He's a bad influence. He always talks about shoes and would, you know, bore my mother to tears. because he's always thinking about it. So not great at setting boundaries on when we do and don't talk about it. Yeah, getting better.
It's hard as a business owner anyway, isn't it, to do that? Even if you're not working with someone you're related to, it's really difficult to be like, and this is the boundary of my life, and this is the boundary of my work. And that's one of the great things about having a business, is you have the freedom to be a bit more flexible about when you work and where you work, but you also have the flip side of that, which is that it never quite stops either.
Yeah, it's you get jealous of your friends who can leave their work and get, nice holiday and things like that. But it's also, if you're doing something you really care about, you kind of want to think about it all the time.
And things are only ever a problem if they're a problem, aren't they? That's the thing. It's like, we talk about work-life balance, but there isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of thing with that. And if it's not a problem, then it's not a problem. Do you think you've always been someone who works much better when you're working for yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm naturally quite disobedient. So I think I'm drawn to that, but I do try to create some kind of structure to fit through, because I think it's helpful to have a freedom within constraints.
If you could go back, so say you'd got to the end of your life and you were able to go back to one morning, it doesn't have to be you don't have to be like June 17th, 2003. It can be just a vibe of that time, and you could go back to one morning in your life. What morning would you choose and why?
A Saturday morning in Glasgow, going out for coffee, coming back, getting all the running gear on, getting the map, driving out to Loch Lomond and going up a couple of the Munros around there.
And where would you go for your coffee?
Where in
Yeah.
Shout out to Space on in Partick. What's that road called? Can't remember what that road's called. Space in Partick. Big fan of. Great coffee in Glasgow.
Very good coffee in Glasgow.
Where do you like?
In Glasgow, I haven't lived in Glasgow for a very long time. I haven't lived there for about 12 years, but I used to love going to Mono in the Merchant City. They had the 78 as well. They're all named after
the 78.
records.
I know 78. They used to do a really good jazz jam on a Sunday night.
So it's the same. So it's Mono Stereo, the 78, because it's all like records.
Okay, yeah.
It's there, but they had a little record shop, and there was loads of vintage shops around. It was very Glasgow and cool. What's your coffee order?
Usually very boring, flat white.
Mine's a flat white as well.
Yeah, I like a filter coffee and like a pour over. But I find it's like chasing the dragon. I have like 2 really good pour overs a year, and the rest of the time I'm just left feeling like a schmuck that I paid £9 for a fine black coffee. If
you like coffee, while you're here, you should go to Tiny Tiny.
Tiny Tiny?
Yeah.
I went to Pink Lane before I got here.
Oh, that's very good as well.
Where's Tiny Tiny?
Tiny Tiny's down in Carlisle Square.
Yeah.
And they do amazing coffee.
Really?
And what would your breakfast order be?
My breakfast? Well, I said I don't have breakfast, but I often have breakfast. Full English.
Oh, okay. The full shebang.
Sausage, bacon, black pudding, maybe throw some avocado in there.
How are you having your eggs?
Fried these days.
And are you wanting them hard yolk or soft yolk?
Does anyone have a hard yolk on a fried egg?
My mum likes to have a hard yolk because she loves a fried egg, but she cannot bear egg snot.
Ugh. I wish you didn't tell me that was the term. I was up in Ullapool, and Manon and I got some breakfast and went to this cafe, a really nice cafe, and I wanted a couple of eggs and some black pudding. And they brought out the eggs, and they were the yolk was hard. So I said, "Oh, excuse me, I don't suppose I could have another couple of eggs." And the woman said to me, "Oh, you wanted them soft boiled?" And like I paused for a minute. I thought, "Oh, is that a thing?" I thought, "That's not a thing."
I think some people like
hard
that.
yolk on a fried egg.
Yeah,
But
well,
not
I
as a
personally
standard.
wouldn't. I can see that it deeply offends your soul, the thought of having a hard egg on
Just
it.
the presumption. There's nowhere that's the norm, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's the norm.
Okay,
I
just
think
checking.
I think they've probably just kept your eggs out too long. I think that
I
most.
thought I was going crazy.
And our final but most important question, which actually follows on quite nicely from what we've just been talking about. You're at a hotel. It's a hotel buffet breakfast. It's a nice one. What is your strategy?
I think you want to go for reps
Okay.
rather than weight. So multiple trips, because I think you walk off some of the food when you get up and move, and then you can get more in. So
you're going all in.
oh yeah.
This is like an event.
Yeah. It's all you can eat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You start with all the cakes and the muffins, and they're never that good, but it's just really novel having cake for breakfast. Then you go back and you have a big bowl of fruit and watermelon. You smash that. Then you go back and you have a bowl of granola, chopped up banana in it. Then you go back for the full English.
What are you having on your granola? Are you having milk or yogurt?
Milk.
Okay. I think you're wrong, but okay.
I like yogurt, but it's a bit. With the granola, it's too dry.
Disagree, but okay. We can.
Do you like overnight?
No, can't be bothered with that. I do it like once every 5 years. I'll remember it exists, and I'll do it, and I'll feel so smug, and I'll post it on Instagram.
Do you enjoy it though?
No, it's horrible. It's like
wood pulp.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
But I will do it once every couple of years, and I'll put it in like one of the goop hood like jars.
So you've actually found a use for those things. I thought you just collect them until you have no space for any of your glassware.
Mostly that we just collect them out. But once every the one use that I have for them is once every 5 years. I do that, and then I don't enjoy it. I enjoy posting it on Instagram and telling everybody that I've done it.
Nice.
And I enjoy the smug feeling it gives me for the rest of the day. But then I forget about it again because I don't actually enjoy it. So what's next on the plan for Nackt Shoes then?
New stuff coming. We've got lots more colours coming.
Nice.
I can't reveal too much, but yeah, build out the range and expand from there. And we get so many people calling us saying that they want to try them on. So we're working hard to have more of a high street presence. So I think people still really like buying footwear in person.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes next because I love my pair that I have. So I'm excited to see what other colours and things you come out with. And thank you so much for joining me. This has been such a lovely conversation.
Thank you, Jo. Lovely to be here.
Thank you for listening to Before the Work Begins podcast with me, Jo Hutton. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you always get to hear the brand new episodes of this podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Jo Hutton Yoga and of course on Substack at Yoga for Tired People.